Do you ever miss fall?
Yeah.
A lot? Really?
Not a lot, but I do like that crisp in the air.
We get that a little. It's more...
But not till February.
Yeah. I mostly don't miss fall because I
miss a decisive spring more than I miss fall.
Mm-hmm.
But I do sometimes miss fall. I mean, I like the whole vibe of fall, you know, like boots and apple cider and stuff. And I mean,
it was okay. It always gave me
school anxiety.
PTSD.
Yeah. I get it.
Even now, it was like the Green Mile for me. Once.
I mean, I didn't really like school until I got to like late high school and then college, but I never suffered from it that badly.
It was.
You're not suited for traditional learning.
For structure?
Yeah. For a structured learning environment. Well,
how about a lot of people around me who are also miserable, but taking it out on me?
You, yeah. Well, the other thing, too, is that I think I fall into the same category, too, is that I'm much more inclined to learn if it's something I want to learn about in my own time.
And when I wasn't literally dragged out of bed to do it.
Exactly. There's no excuse why high school starts at 7 a.m. It's ridiculous.
Scientifically.
It's bad.
They've written papers.
Bad for kids.
Jen asked me recently, and I was like, nowadays, I do miss fall because it makes me think of her, because there was like when we were 18 and 19, I think maybe even 18, but there was one fall. It was when the Britney Spears In the Zone came out. And I just remember driving around the countryside, listening to Me Against the Music and like trying to find booze and like just all kinds of like shenanigans and stuff like so that I do miss, but really only for like a week or two.
Yeah, I don't miss it. It's the type of thing where like once all of our friends who live up north, once they're like, oh my God, it's snowing on October 3rd. Those are the moments when I'm like, it's 85 degrees and I can still get in my pool. And so it's like, I'm cool. I'm cool here.
My ideal weather would be like 2 or 3 weeks of fall, like traditional fall, like 2 or 3 weeks of like traditional winter. And then like
46
9 and a half months of spring, of traditional spring. Yeah. And then like, I'll do some of the horrible Florida summer, but only, again, the 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. So here's my ideal. Well, this is in my ideal world where I also don't go to work for a living, where I'm just in my home. I'm similar, where I would like 3 weeks of snow around Christmas and New Year's so that I can have a white Christmas and I can get snowed in the winter and make stew for like 3 weeks. And then I would like 40 weeks of spring. And then the remainder can be hot so that going in the pool is like really a refreshing cleanse. That's my ideal calendar.
Hello, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching This Show, your twice weekly pop culture podcast where we talk about movies, TV, music, and more. And as always, this is a spoiler show, so you have been warned, but we are talking about Hocus Pocus on today's episode.
An even older movie than our first episode.
I have a confession.
Okay.
It has been years since I've seen Hocus Pocus.
Me too.
Well, that's going to be not controversial, but that's going to be unusual because it had a renaissance within the past
5 or 6 or 7
years.
Well, you and I are kind of bitches about stuff like that, where it's like within the last decade, and then for like 3 or 4 years within that, everybody was like, Hocus Pocus is the best Halloween movie that's ever existed. And I'm just like...
It wasn't even that, but it's like, I saw my time hop that it's like, I had, I guess Freeform or something got the license for it. Yeah. And so they started playing it on...
31 Days of Halloween. Yeah. Or whatever.
And so it got popular. And then the nostalgia was just right. And actually, it's going to be 30
in 3 years.
Yeah, that's usually it's more. But this has been going on for. Yeah. So the nostalgia was just right. And it was all. Sorry if any of you are listening or watching this, but I'm going to say all of like my most basic Facebook friends were like, oh my God, Hocus Pocus. And I had a status that just said, Hocus Pocus, Hocus Pocus, Hocus Pocus, Hocus Pocus, Hocus Pocus. And it just was like that. And so I got really sort of like about it. And then I decided that, I was like, you know what? It is iconic. It is a witch movie we wanted to do.
Well, and it's also, I mean, I think you can't discount the fact that it is Bette Midler, Kathy Najimy, and Sarah Jessica Parker, which are like, I mean, who doesn't want that?
So I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and do this. I honestly don't remember. This was a bit of a holy grail for me as a kid because I wanted to see it so bad.
Well, and we were only 8 when this movie came out.
My mom would not let me.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why. And I just remember being so
mad,
frustrated. And I remember her explaining that like we didn't do witchcraft in this house, like that kind of thing. And I was like, she's on a vacuum.
I forgot about the vacuum.
I don't. In the poster, they were like riding a vacuum. Yeah. And I just remember my like best friend, quasi girlfriend at the time, because I was that kid. The people talk about like little gay boys, which I was, but I was like a suave little gay boy that was like drowning in it.
You really were.
And I just remember her being like, oh my God, Hocus Pocus was amazing. Have you not seen it? And I was
Jenny?
Courtney. Her name was Courtney. Okay. She was my dance partner.
Okay.
And I just remember being so frustrated. And my mom finally let me see it. And I remember being very conflicted because I responded to elements of it. But isn't it actually a little bit intense?
A couple parts are. Yeah.
I think it might actually be. And so I remember being kind of like, ooh. But I was obsessed with them. And especially the like their designs, like the color blocking of them and everything. That's not exactly how that word works.
No, but I mean. They're like
color coded.
They're regimented, yeah. Mm-hmm. And did you like the blonde girl too?
Oh my God. Well, I remember being my little bisexual heart being very sort of very stimulated between her and then the boy and then
Binks.
Thackeray, is that his name?
I thought it was
Thackeray Binks.
Oh, maybe it's something like that.
I remember it being like a cornucopia. A
lot of things.
Of young
plus
feelings.
Sarah Jessica Parker like the prow of a ship.
Heaving bosom. Yeah, and because I remember, I think I tried to like write a play about it or something. Oh. I tried to force the neighborhood kids to be in. I did that a lot around this time. There were a lot of theatrical productions in the backyard.
And you were like the little director. We should make you watch Single Parents because there's a boy that I feel like was a lot like you as like a little child when we didn't know each other when you were that young.
I was a little different. Yeah. I was a little bit more OCD than I am now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this and watch it again. Is it one of the ones that's actually regarded as good, or is it just a nostalgia factor?
I don't know, to be honest.
I'm like prepared for it to be good. Oh, well, Rotten Tomatoes says no.
Who cares?
So July 16th, 1993, it was my birthday.
Okay.
It was
my birthday. So you wanted to go for your birthday and your mom wouldn't let you go for your birthday? The only thing your mom never let you do for your birthday?
On a list of like 5 things. So yeah, we'll see. So I'm actually...
Me too. It's been, I want to say, easily 10 years since I've watched this. At least.
Cool.
Twist the bones and bend the back. Here to decouple the American mystic.
Back in 1693, the people of Salem, Massachusetts, witches, thought they got rid of the Sanderson sisters for good.
We shall be back.
300 years later, it's Halloween Eve, and they're back.
We're home.
Are you broads a little old to be trick-or-treating?
We're talking about 3-ancient hags versus the 20th century. How bad can it be?
Now they're digging up old friends.
What a stench.
And running amok.
Amok.
Looking for the one thing they miss most.
You stay for supper. I'm not hungry.
But we are.
Only one boy has the power to stop them
Prepare to die again!
You have no powers here, you fool!
before all Salem falls under their spell.
Hello, you!
Walt Disney Pictures presents Bette Midler,
Hello?
Sarah Jessica Parker,
Would thou dance with me?
and Kathy Najimy. Hocus Pocus.
Into the night!
They love to fly, and it shows.
Good night. Sleep tight. No screaming.
I feel like we need to, like, we don't need another intro, but we need to do that thing that they do in talk shows where it's like they're clearly talking about something.
Oh,
like,
should I
real.
get like my news notes?
Yeah. And then we'll be like, oh. And
Welcome back.
And we're back. So yeah, we just watched Hocus Pocus. First time in a long time for both of us.
Both of us, yeah.
I cannot believe how much of this movie is seared in my memory.
Me too.
I really don't think I watched it that many times.
I think in the first place I haven't seen it in like at least 15 years, and in the second place I think I've only seen it like twice.
There must have been like something formative happening, especially when you consider its resurgence.
Yeah.
I was reading, and actually, I guess I'll go ahead and start with this. I wanted to read a little bit, but it did get bad. It like flopped.
Yeah.
When it first came out, it got bad reviews. So on Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an approval rating of 37 based on 52 reviews. The website's critical consensus reads, harmlessly hokey, yet never much more than mediocre. Hocus Pocus is a muddled, family-friendly effort that fails to live up to the talent of its impressive cast. Gene Siskel remarked that the film was a dreadful witches comedy with the only tolerable moment coming when Bette Midler presents a single song. Roger Ebert gave the film 1 star out of a possible 4, writing that it was a confusing cauldron in which there is a great activity but little progress and a lot of hysterical shrieking. The Miami Herald called it a pretty lackluster affair, adding this comment, despite the triple threat actress combo, Hocus Pocus won't be the sister act of 1993.
Well, that's two different animals there.
Film has flashes of visual stylishness, but virtually no grip on its story. Entertainment Weekly gave it a C-, calling it acceptable, scary, silly kitty fodder that adults will find mildly insulting. Unless they're Bette Midler fans, in which case it's depressing as hell, is what he said.
Okay, all right. So
one more.
One more.
So, and stating that while Najimy and Parker have their moments of ramshackle comic inspiration, and the passable special effects should keep younger campers transfixed, the decite of the divine Miss M mugging her way through a cheesy supernatural kitty comedy is, to say the least, dispiriting. I have things to say.
I don't know where to start.
Okay.
I disagree with all of that.
But the thing for me is I don't disagree with all of it.
Okay.
Like, I think it kind of doesn't really have a grasp on its story.
Well,
I agree with that. And I agree with a lot. I agree with it's very frantic, but not a lot happens.
Sure. And I know that it's for kids, but like, I had a fun time watching it.
I should go ahead and state that since we're talking about this. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Watching it, I was like, this is delightful.
Yeah.
I don't know if it can't even be just nostalgia, though, because it wasn't a big hit when it came out.
No, and I mean, like we just said, I remember a lot about it, but it was never like my go-to Halloween movie. So it's not like I watched it over and over and over again as a child, and now I'm just like, it's like a trigger response. I just had a nice time. It's silly and it's fun and it's cute. And there's like, I think, legitimate stakes.
There's a couple of things.
A child dies in the first 5 minutes of this movie.
There's a couple that's part of my feelings. It's not even issues per se, but that's part of my comments on the movie. But there's a lot going on with this movie because this is 1993 and it is a Disney film.
Yeah.
I
didn't realize.
I'm aware that Disney has it now, but it seems like something Disney would have acquired along the way.
No, it had that logo up there and everything.
it is before I feel like we're in this point with Disney now where everything has to be connected to some pre-existing IP or like a take on something or a remake of something or like, well, for instance, this movie wouldn't happen now.
No.
Although it would because it would be a Hocus Pocus reboot.
Sure.
And so there was something about the fact that this was an original story that wasn't being choked by the Disney-ness of it.
Yeah.
To the point where we were surprised to find out it was Disney.
Yeah.
It also, you mentioned the stakes. That is, I will say, a criticism of mine, and I think it's probably why it watches better for me as an adult than it did as a child, is that it is weirdly adult in all the places that it's not. Like, the dichotomy between the slapstickiness of it
and an actual child dying in the first 5 minutes.
And then the stakes of it are tonally inconsistent.
I can agree with
we
that.
say that a lot, but I think it's true. And it's the kind of thing that as I was watching it, I was sort of like, man, I wish this was more straightforward without any of the silly moments. But then I was like, but the silly moments are what I'm responding to.
Right.
So I think if you, and maybe it's the kind of thing where it's like you need to watch it as a child and then watch it as an adult in order to get the full experience.
Sure.
Like you need both.
Both.
Does that?
I think probably because it's one of those things where, like, as a child, even when there were like life and death stakes in a movie, it didn't really register to me in the way that it does now as an adult, where I'm like a little girl, a 7-year-old girl,
like it's witchcraft.
Yeah,
it's
the life is sucked out of her in the first 5 minutes of this movie, and that's alarming when it then goes on to, like, you know, Sarah Jessica Parker going amok, and she slaps her in the stomach. It's like, you know, those are different things.
A zombie's head is kicked off. A cat is run over by a bus.
Yeah.
These 3 women are locked in a kiln and burned alive. Like, so it goes to some weird places, and it's like the whole bit with Satan, with the guy dressed like Satan, is
Gary Marshall.
really. Is it Gary Marshall? I know it was Penny Marshall. I guess I don't know Gary Marshall, but
it's her brother.
That's okay. The whole thing is very funny, but it's like, it's like, oh, wow. So we're actually like in this reality, witches worship Satan.
Yeah.
And so
it goes to
a Sabrina place.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Way ahead of its time. And it just, the implications of it. And they cannot stop talking about how he's a virgin.
Yeah.
And
like to the point where everybody in town knows this kid is a virgin by the end of the movie.
And it's hilarious and it's endearing, but there's something off-putting about the family nature parts of the rest of the...
Yeah.
Like, it's like... It's like this movie, they started with a teen movie. Mm-hmm.
And then
made a kids movie, or vice versa.
It's like, but also then they like threw in some really flat, like flashes of adult content, which is like, I agree with the tonal inconsistency.
It's just like if you start with Scream, but then you like turn it into Goosebumps, and it's like, well,
you're like, still there's like a stabbing with an umbrella at the end of the movie, but it's like, oh god.
And I don't think Bette Midler needed to be as goofy as she was. I think Kathy Najimy could have handled that. Yeah. I could talk for minutes, like 20 full minutes about Sarah Jessica Parker. She is so hot in this movie.
Like the prow of a ship.
It's so, you said that in the first part.
I still, even more so after having watched it.
But she's also so skinny.
Yeah.
And she still has that face. Like she looks like a witch in the movie. But it's just like, I made a joke because I also love that she's like a siren.
Well, yeah, and they also like darkened her eyebrows and made them bigger.
Because she's like boy crazy. And it's the little details like that where it's like, I think that's really effective.
Yeah.
And I think had they maybe not toned down the silliness of the movie and gone ahead and let it be like a PG-13, I think it maybe might have been more successful.
It could have suited it a little bit better. But I feel like at that time, I'm not sure Disney was...
Well, Disney shouldn't.
Well, again, yes. If we're going that direction,
this should be a WB or like a Jim Henson or something like.
But yeah, I agree with you
because there was a point where Sarah Jessica Parker, she made like almost like a sexy joke, and I said something about how I was like the original cock destroyer. She really was bringing like
with her tits just all out everywhere. Yeah.
And they really do like create a world in this movie. So it just feels odd. Like it does not feel like a Disney movie watching it.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree about the slapsticky nature of everything going against.
But you could also argue that that's necessary in order to make it, because it is so serious that if you didn't have the comic relief, then it would be horrific.
Sure. So if this was like a straightforward Salem witch trials revenge story, obviously that is not gonna fly either. I do think it has to have some kind of a meshing with the funny and the serious, but I think they didn't get the ratios correct is the problem.
And I mean, the parents in this reality are worthless. Yeah. And I remember
they generally are in teen movies.
Yes, that is true. Teen movie. First of all, you said it there.
I did, yeah.
I remember being a kid and sort of feeling uncomfortable watching it because it's they can't count on their parents.
The adults, yeah.
Their parents aren't going to save them from this. And so I remember this movie giving me a fair amount of anxiety a few times. And the scene where, what's her name? The Vanessa?
Oh,
Allison? Maybe?
Allison.
The scene where she throws down the salt circle and stuff. Yeah. My memory of that was terrifying. And frankly, she was behaving pretty terrified in that scene.
I just, when you said it before, when you said throw down the salt circle, I was imagining the mountain ash on Teen Wolf. And so then she just is whipping it around her head.
Well, the way Miss Morale does it, she's pew!
And it falls down in a perfect ring around her.
No, Allison was terrified. And so it really, it's a very odd movie. Yeah. I liked it, and I think I like it better in hindsight. And
it has a lot of moments too, a lot of those iconic moments.
There's a book made out of human skin in this.
And it has an eyeball that works on it.
Yeah, but that's very that goes back into the Never-Ending Story vibes and stuff. So it is a lot to take. I did like the kids enough. I think it was smart to start the story 300 years ago. And I think it's smart for us to meet human Thackeray and all that, because then we're sort of endeared to this cat who's kind of a dick, but
a little bit of a dick. Apparently it's the same animatronic that they later used on Sabrina.
Is it?
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. I thought the effects were pretty good.
They were not bad.
They were fine.
For 93.
To mention their costumes again, I do think that they were gorgeous and they are very iconic. There is just something so appealing every time the three of them are on screen together. Yeah. And it's kind of like when the Spice Girls are in their iconic outfits and you're just yes.
Yeah. Or the Destiny's Child, the Say My Name video. I like them all and they're all three really good, but for me, leaving aside the fact that it is Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker is the witch for me in this movie, because her dress is like reddish and purple and everything, and she's got those sexy boots and everything. It's very pretty. And when she's got the long blonde hair.
When they're flying, when she does the song, it's so good.
It's so good.
And so it's the part. I think that's it. I do think I'm going to stand by what I was leaning towards. That I do think I wish it was a little bit more serious, and a little bit more scary, and less of the slapstick, because her doing the song,
it's effective.
It's still identifiably Sarah Sanderson that we've been seeing,
but there's a different layer.
There's a demented quality to her performance in that scene.
There's a demented quality to her the whole time, because she's kind of an idiot. But she's sort of good at what she does. And there's also the weird, sort of half a plot line that like she slept with her sister's man? Because that's why when he sewed his mouth shut is because Sarah slept with him. And so it's like that kind of thing where it's like that's sort of a throwaway situation, but it's also like
this isn't a kid's movie.
It's not a kid's movie. Yeah. That's where I was getting. It's like it works, but it's like when you take all of these things together, you're like, if you were to explain this movie to someone where it's like 3 witches are trying to steal children and their life force so that they can remain alive and young forever, it goes to a Stardust.
I was gonna say this should be more of a Stardust. Yeah, I think that's my like actual critique, like my criticism. Is that
it's not more like Stardust?
It should be a PG-13 adventure,
because
like horror.
To that point, Stardust does have moments of slapstick, where like with Mark Strong, where she's got the voodoo doll of him at the end, and she's like making him. Well, fight.
And I would keep Kathy Najimy and Sarah Jessica Parker
the way
exactly.
they are, but
I just I would tone Bette Midler's shtick down.
Sure, okay,
because she's really doing a lot of, and this is not a criticism of her performance because I think it's written that way, and I think she was directed that way.
Yeah. But also Winifred is the one who is like hatching these plans. And she is at multiple times in the movie frustrated with the sisters for like not being on her level essentially. And so to have her be sort of just
she should be way more Maleficent.
Yeah. And because to have her be just as like silly as they are, a lot of times it sort of undermines her the whole thrust of her plot line.
I completely, yeah. I think that Allison, as we mentioned, was hot. She's kind of like nothing. I mean, she's a fine enough character.
She is pants a little bit.
Yeah. He actually, I liked him. Max.
Yeah.
Well, he was really cute.
He was cute.
I looked him up. He was only 16 because he was pegging. I figured he was like 18.
Oh, he was pegging younger to me.
I mean, he was pulling off 16.
Yeah.
But I figured, I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'm going to watch what I say.
He was giving me like Gregory Smith vibes, like Gregory Smith in The Patriot vibes. And so that's what I
need to see that
He's
again.
like 14 in that movie.
I haven't. I was 14 when I saw it, so.
We could watch it. We could watch The Patriot. It's been forever since I've watched it. But very young Heath Ledger.
He pulled off. He pulled off the story.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he was like 2 separate times in the movie. We're like, this kid is smooth as fuck.
That's what I was gonna say.
He was like pretty smooth with Allison.
I was like he's kind of a dream boyfriend.
It made sense that she would actually go for it, because I think they are different attractiveness levels.
Sure, but it works.
It works.
Because she said something about like wondering if salt would ward off old boyfriends, and he was like, "What about new boyfriends?" It was smooth, and he was kind of a jerk in the beginning, as is like requisite, especially at the time, but not too much.
No, and he wasn't being like a dick to people. He was just like, Halloween was invented by candy companies, and it's like it just wasn't. Was not.
Like I was like, it's not even.
Simply was not. It's pagan.
Ancient Rome.
Ancient. But because the line that he does at the beginning, because they're talking about how like it's All Hallows Eve, and it's like when the veil between the living and the dead are thin, and the spirits can come back or whatever. And he was like, "Well, if the spirit of Jimi Hendrix comes back, give me a call." And he like slipped her his phone number, and it was like very smooth.
And she's like shat when she like just gives it back to him. I don't know. I was into. I think the teen parts of it were what worked the most.
Although I think Thora Birch is adorable.
But that Thora can exist. That character could exist in a teenage movie.
Exactly.
And it like, because she's also the heart and like the him sacrificing himself for his sister and all that. Like, yeah, honestly, I think that's my consensus is that I just think it needed to be bumped up just a bit.
Because not
a whole lot.
What is it, PG?
Yeah.
It could go up a little. I agree. I definitely agree.
And we're kind of, that's another thing is like, we're in a place now where like the PG movie kind of doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Which it does, but it's like Frozen's PG.
Yeah.
Tangled is PG. So it's like, okay, so effectively is what's happened is there's not G-rated movies anymore. So PG movies, what used to be standard family fare, now are children's movies. And then the PG-13 has taken over just the standard movie.
Yeah.
Because it used to be G, PG, and R.
Yeah. There wasn't PG-13 until like the mid-'80s, I think.
Wasn't Indiana Jones the first?
Something like that.
Because Jaws is PG. And so is Splash.
Jaws should be rated R. Are you certain?
I'm certain. We covered it.
It's not that I don't believe you. PG. Inappropriate. That's inappropriate.
So I think if this movie were being made now, I think it would be PG-13 and it would be a little bit. And kids these days, I mean.
Kids these days.
That they're coming out of the womb with like smartphones attached to like their so they can handle it. But
I remember a time before the internet
where you had to look in the newspaper for the movie times.
Yeah, or you had to call. And I remember before we had a computer.
Remember when you had to have a plan before you left the house with like other people?
Yeah.
You couldn't just be like, call me when you get there.
Hey, I'm out. Do you want to meet me?
Yeah. So let me think. Oh, yeah.
We're
actually,
old.
my third, I don't feel.
No, I
old.
don't feel.
I really don't. But every so often something will happen where I'll be like I told you, I was out with my brother and like two of his friends the other day. And one of the guys was like, he was nice, but he was just really shy. He was pegging. That's what I was like pegging him as shy.
Oh, okay.
And then he said something and I was like, well, how old are you? And he goes 23. And I was like,
my whole heart.
That's what it is. And I was like, okay. And he like listened to me and he was, because I even told him, I was like, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I hated when people tried to make me feel young. I was like, it's just, I used to be you. Yeah. And I'm not anymore. And I'm catching up. Like I'm experiencing.
This used to be my playground.
What is that from? Oh,
well, it's Madonna.
League of Their Own.
It's in a League of Their Own.
So yeah, I think both of these movies, well, we recorded both.
Yeah.
The Craft.
I forgot to. It's been like 2 hours.
I was like, a League of Their Own? We recorded both Craft and Hocus Pocus, and both of them I do think are very much of their time.
Well, they're only 3 years apart, too. So it was also
And the world's different now.
The world is so different now. It's again, because the parents are in a similar, like, they're a similar level of parents where it's like just useless. And because it's like when we were watching The Craft, every time Robin Tooney's dad was like he was like, hey babe, what's going on? And it just was like, she's like cavorting with the devil and you have no idea. Like this is a problem.
But yeah, so I'm glancing at my notes to see if I got everything. And I was like, my third note just says, this is kind of risque.
Yeah, it's a little. Well, because when Thora Birch makes the comment about the yabos, because she is wearing that sort of like, but a little bit of a busty dress. Allison is wearing a little bit of a busty dress because they're having like a really themed party, like a 1600 themed party.
I was like, this is a good plan on Danny's part, trying to pretend to be a witch that summoned them.
It was good. Yeah, I have always liked Thora Birch. We should do Now and Then.
I've never seen it,
but I think you might like it.
Speaking of Devon Sawa, well, we talked about.
Oh my God, Devon Sawa!
Because at the end of this movie, Will watched it with us, and he was like, "Oh, don't they like Anakin Skywalker at the end?" And I was like, "It's more of a Casper
situation." And I was like, "Except it's not Devon Sawa." And you were like, "This kid's cute though." And I was like, "Well, he's no Devon Sawa, no Devon Sawa and Casper."
Well, because so after we watched the cat die for like a third or fourth time, and there's like an egregious like. And so she's like trying to get him to come back, and Max is like, "Oh, but it's like good," which it kind of is. I mean, he was 300 years old, 314
well, and he couldn't
years old.
He couldn't die until he found peace for his sister, which is alarming.
And so his like ghost is like thanking Danny, and he like kisses her, and it's like, "I'll be with you always."
Be with you.
And I was like, he just fucked that little girl up.
Like, pretty hard.
I mean, you know, when people have a hard time getting over their first crush and stuff, it's like, I mean, imagine having like a ghost colonial boyfriend.
Well, to that point, imagine Christina Ricci and Casper. She's never going to have a healthy relationship again, because it's also tied all up in her relationship with her dead mom too. Like, oh God, the ghost of my dead mom and my ghost boyfriend all departed at the same time.
What's his name from Hill House? Stevie? The like therapist that writes the books.
Oh yeah, Stevie,
yeah. We need him to come in.
We need Stevie to come to a lab.
The Friends fountain is in this movie.
Is it?
Yeah. When they're in like the park and there was a fountain and a row of houses, and I said Friends.
Oh, I wondered why you said that. Oh, okay.
I was like, that's the Friends.
Is that on a backlot?
I looked it up.
I always thought it was the Bethesda Park fountain for some reason. In New York.
No, because it's not. It has to be a backlot.
Okay.
Because when they do when Friends does like the alternate opening where Monica's still fat and Phoebe's like the businesswoman and stuff, they couldn't recreate it because it has to be in New York.
Okay.
Whatever it was, they're in it when they do the recreation. They're in a different setting because they didn't have it in the budget to go to the fountain.
Okay.
But anyway, so I was like, I know that fountain. So I Googled Friends fountain, and the first suggestion says Hocus Pocus.
Oh, nice.
And so I clicked it, and
that's funny.
The bullies were weird. That also feels, I mean, I know people are all like, okay, I know young people are always mean, like jerks, which I don't know. I can't imagine there are any kids actually watching this, but it's like, it gets better. That shit goes away.
It does. Yeah.
Like once you hit like 20, people are just kind of like, if people are being mean to you, it's either like a rare exception or you're doing something wrong.
Well, or it's like you're allowed to not talk to them anymore. It's not like school where you still have to see them every day.
No, but I mean, even like the peer situation changes, because it's like if you enter a workplace and someone's like a bully, other people are like, what's wrong with to the bully? You know what I mean? It's like,
what are you doing? Yeah.
And so I'm having a hard time deciding if I feel like the like aggressive bullying this way is a relic of the 90s.
I think it might be. I mean, obviously kids are still getting bullied. I don't think that'll never go away, because it's that thing we've talked about where it's like how, like psychologically, it's how we develop how to actually respond and deal with other people, partially. But I do think that this level of like they steal his shoes and like, I don't know. I feel like this type of bullying is a product of 90s movies, and I don't think it's an accurate representation of what happens in school anymore. I certainly never saw bullying like that.
They were weird. And
they were weird.
A little funny. But yeah, I also just like that he just left them in the cage. Whatever happened to them?
They were still there at the end singing,
were they?
Like, row, row, row your boat.
Okay. Well deserved.
Yeah. And he got his shoes back. What?
How did he get them back?
He took them off the guy.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Like Max got his shoes back. It's not like the deepest movie that doesn't require analysis. It was fun and I liked it. And it's not something that I'm going to watch like constantly, like during Halloween times. But I mean, if it's on, I won't turn the channel. So channels, like I'm just watching television.
I hate when it's back to us being old again. Because like I keep dating myself in really embarrassing ways. Like it's like the whole like,
oh, the phone versus the phone.
Phone.
Well, whatever. I've been watching Wings on Hulu. So I'm like,
I love Wings.
Love Wings.
Well, anyways.
Well, Doug Jones.
Yeah.
He was pretty cool. I love Doug Jones. He seems so game for just like whatever.
I was like, he literally has made a career.
Yeah,
out of doing this.
Prosthetics that leave him unrecognizable.
So, all right. Well, that was Hocus Pocus.
Yay. Was it streaming? Where did we watch it? Did we rent it?
Disney Plus.
Oh, Disney Plus. So if you have Disney Plus, you can watch Hocus Pocus. We recommend it for funsies. And also if you have children who won't be put off by plot holes.
Or intense
stakes with potentially psychological
ramifications.
But yeah, so you can, like always, follow us on Twitter @So I'm Watching or Instagram @So I'm Watching This Show, or you can like and subscribe. You point to over here.
Well, I'm doing it for my coverage, and then we're gonna
over here. We start doing it like like flight attendants. Yeah. So, and then other than that, you can rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or YouTube or wherever you listen. And that's it for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yay! Woo. Happy Halloween month. Spooktober.